Greetings. I'm doing a crazy thing today. Well, it's not crazy, but it's crazy for me because today is November 3rd when I'm filming this. And I just today received a pressure canner that I ordered on July 1st. And I didn't think it was ever coming. I do a lot of canning, you've seen me do some here. And those of you who are on Facebook with me or Instagram have seen some of the things that I can from the garden. But I'm doing a lot more canning. We're doing a lot more preserving food lately. And I got the idea that I really wanted to, I usually use the water bath canner, and I got the idea that I wanted to use the pressure canner so it would open up how many more things I would be able to safely preserve for us. And well, I got it. I did it at the wrong time, right? I ordered it right before the world, right during the time that the world kind of went to hell, and all of our suppliers were severely compromised with their stock, having things in stock, getting people in to make more things, etc. So it's been a real struggle for me to get it. I was so excited to get it today. I couldn't wait. Because I have some things I wanted to can that I could not use for my water bath canner. And what I mean by crazy day is I'm going to make something today to preserve that I'm not even going to can at all. But I thought it would be something that you would like to see me do, because it's something anybody can do, whether you have a pressure canner, whether you have a water bath canner, or whether you don't have that at all and you just want to preserve some foods. And that is pickles. Pickles. Yes, pickles. We talked a little bit about pickles in the past. I think I've mentioned in the past that we keep pickle juice and olive brine and things in our refrigerator because my husband uses them particularly to keep himself from suffering from leg cramps at night. And they're very good for us. But pickles are something that is a staple in our house, which is kind of just happened to us. We didn't used to eat so many pickles. I mean, we've always liked pickles, but we never really ate so many until we realized that they were so, if you have a jar of pickles, you have lunch. You have snacks. One of our favorite treats we have is tuna. We call it tuna pickle. It's just open a can of tuna and chop up some dill pickle in it or some relish or whatever kind of pickle you have. And then maybe mix in a little mayonnaise and you're good to go, either on a sandwich or just as part of the salad or on its own or on a cracker. So we always have that in the house. We make sure we always have that. We could always use it for cooked chicken, etc. So anyway, I just got crazy about pickles. And the other thing I love about making pickles is you do not have to can them. They will last for months and months and months. I have even successfully kept pickles in my refrigerator for a year or longer. If you do it well, if you treat the pickle properly, the cucumber, let's say the cucumber properly, and I pickle all kinds of cucumbers. I don't pickle just pickling cucumbers. I pickle whatever kind of a cucumber I have. I have pickled, you look on the Good Wife's Garden blog, and you can see some of the pickles like years ago when some of my first pickles were made out of these big old-fashioned, really tough-skinned pickles. Skinned cucumbers that made delicious pickles. And I've also made them from things like Persian cucumbers that have a very, very thin skin. I've made them very successfully, too. I have a couple of jars here I wanted to show you just from my refrigerator. This is actually the last 2 jars of pickles I have, which is why I'm making more pickles. These were done in August, and they're still as delicious as anything. And here I can show you, I just cut them in spears. This one is all spears. You can see the stuff floating around in there. That's what I'm going to show you what that stuff is today. But that's just spears cut in. And this one, when I get to odd pieces of cucumber, is just, I don't know if you can see that or not, if the light is good, but it's just chunks. Just any old size chunks. I don't know what. These were the ends, or not the ends, but small pieces or odd pieces, or maybe pickles. The cucumbers were, I used maybe only half of it, maybe I didn't like half of it or whatever. But this is just as good. These are just as good as this. So I have any shape. You can cut them in slices. If you want to have little midget cucumbers, you can just pickle them like that, pickle them whole. But this is just, so it's so simple, and I have adapted a recipe that, I used to use a couple recipes. Now I have pretty much one that I use for my refrigerated pickle that I vary depending on what I like. But I want to show you how simple it goes together, so simple. And the other good news is, the fact that I'm using this just as a refrigerated pickle means I don't have to have special jars and special lids. And right now, if you're a canner at all, or know anybody who's a canner, you know that the canning jars and canning lids have been the newest shortage on the shelves. Very limited in how many people can get. Some places, depending on where you live in the country, some people aren't able to get them at all. We've been fortunate that we've been able to get down what we need, but we're paying a lot of attention. We're paying a lot of attention and really, making sure that when we see the lids, we buy some, or whatever. So anyway, but you can use any kind of a jar. You need to have a glass jar for this. Do not use plastic. Plastic is not good for pickling. It must be glass, and it needs to have some kind of a lid. So an empty pickle jar, or an empty mayonnaise jar, or an empty, guess who smells cucumbers? Louie likes his cucumbers. My dog loves cucumbers. Well, you just have to wait a minute. So anyway, any kind of a glass jar will do, and with a lid. So it has to have a lid. So if you have an empty mayonnaise jar, empty pickle jar, empty, I like these jars. Well, I'll show you what I have here. I like these jars. It's a pint-sized jar. I like that. It's a good size if I want to make spears. It's a good length for a pickle if I want to stand it up in. I don't want to have too many. I don't want it too deep, or I have trouble getting the ones on the bottom. I don't want it if I have little chunks, or if I have little slices. Again, I don't want it too deep. You don't need to have a wide mouth. It can be a regular mouth jar, which is just a little smaller in diameter here. See, this one has a straight side. By a regular mouth, I mean it has a little neck. It has a neck around here that's smaller, makes the lid smaller, like a mayonnaise jar or something like that has. That's okay. It's hard to get maybe the mouth from the sides, but you can deal with that. It's easy. I'm using these jars today because these are actually meant to be freezer jars. You can use them for anything, but you can't use just every kind of jar in the freezer. These are made in such a way, I'm not sure what it is, why I used to know what the special thing about a freezer jar was. I think a regular jar, canning jar, has a tendency to crack or something like that. I should look that up. I don't know anymore because I really don't freeze many things anymore. And I'm not likely to freeze things that have frozen in the past, like soups and broths, because that's where I have my pressure canner, so I can do that. But anyway, I'm using these because I want to use them, and they're a nice jar. And the good thing about canning jars are they sell plastic lids by the box. So you don't need a canning lid. If you're going to put it in the jar, you just need a lid. And these plastic jars are really good for something that contains vinegar, so that you don't have to worry about it, the lid rusting or anything from the vinegar. Now, I want to say very clearly before I begin that the recipe that I'm giving you today, the steps I'm giving you today, is for making a pickle that is meant to be kept in the refrigerator and eaten from the refrigerator. It is not meant for canning, whether it's water bath or pressure canning. Even though you can pickle, yes, both. Pickle things both in a pressure canner, I believe. Water bath canner, absolutely. And then they can just be on the shelf and they don't have to be refrigerated. But this recipe is not for that. It is not for that. So I want you to understand that if you're going to can, you need to have something that's absolutely the right kind of recipe, has the right amount of salt and the right amount of vinegar ratio, etc. Okay, So, are we clear on that? Hope we're clear. Okay, so I'm just going to show you my steps. Very, very simple. It's basically, I'm going to take my jar and I'm going to put some spices and things in the jar. I'm going to cut up cucumber, put them in the jar, and then I'm going to mix up some vinegar and water, heat it on my stove, put it in the jar. That's it. That's it. It's so easy. Okay, let me change the camera so you can see what I'm doing down here. The first thing I'm going to do is get my brine mixed up, put it in my saucepan so that the brine can be, I'm going to heat it up. And I'm only heating it up so the salt is going to dissolve. It doesn't have to be a hot brine. As a matter of fact, it really should not be a hot brine. But I'm going to mix it up and it is made just, I don't know how far it goes. It depends on how much and how many cucumbers you have in your jar, how many jars of cucumbers you have. So you just use the proportions that I'm going to give you for making the brine, and then make as much as you need. If you run out of brine, make some more brine. If you have extra brine, you can put it in another jar and keep it in the refrigerator if you think you're going to be making more pickles at another time. If you're not going to make any more pickles at another time and you have a little bit of leftover brine, you can get rid of it. You can get rid of it. It's not expensive. It's very cheap to make. Okay, so the first thing that it takes is water. And the best kind of water is some kind of filtered water or water. You don't want water with chlorine in it, right? Or a lot of chemicals. So this is just water that we use all the time. We filter our water all the time. And you want 1.5 cups of water. So that's 12 ounces. I'm putting that in my saucepan. Into the water, I'm going to add vinegar, and I'm going to use apple cider vinegar. White vinegar works very well in this. I made it for years with white vinegar. I just like the taste of an apple cider vinegar, and I like the health properties of an apple cider vinegar, especially a raw unfiltered one. So that's what I'm using, and I'm going to use 1 cup of that. I've made pickles with all kinds of vinegar. As a matter of fact, one of our favorite pickles that we've made uses malt vinegar, which is very lovely. A little bit of an unusual taste, but I've had people eat those pickles who say they don't even like pickles, and they love those. Okay, and for this recipe, remember this is something that's going in the refrigerator. It's not going in. I'm not canning with it, so I need salt. And here I have kosher salt, and I would not use, if you're using table salt, I would not, don't. Okay, and I just want to heat this up a little bit until the salt is dissolved, and then we'll just let it sit until I'm ready to pour it into the jars. While my brine is heating on the stove, I can begin to put the ingredients that I want in my pickles in my jars. So the first thing that goes in each jar, and I know I'm going to have at least, I have, all these cucumbers. I know I'm going to have at least 4 jars. So I'm going to go ahead and pretend I'm having 4 for purposes of television. But the first thing that I need is garlic. So I'm going to put a garlic clove in the bottom of every jar. So that's 4. I'm trying to get 4 that are about the same. One of these is giant, so I think I'm going to break up another one. There we go. Put that one back in. Okay, so So to get them peeled, I'm just going to smash it. And it does not matter that it's smashed because that's, I kind of smashed the garlic, but that doesn't matter because that's just going to release the flavor easier into the jar. So, oh, it smells so good. Garlic has so many good properties for your health. And garlic has a lot of uses, magical uses as well. Pickles are not expensive to buy. And people ask me all the time, why don't you buy pickles? I just love to make the pickles. First of all, I love to make the pickles taste the way I want them to taste. And secondly, I love knowing the ingredients that I put in, even if it's ingredients that I purchased. I love having those. There's just something satisfactory. Something satisfactory.
And they taste better.
Oh, and my husband said, oh, they taste better. They do taste better. Sometimes you buy them and they're a little bit metallic tasting. To me. I always think about my grandmother when I think about pickles too, because I told you I grew up in Pennsylvania. And no matter what month of the year it was, anytime we had a family dinner, like a Sunday dinner particularly, when we were setting the table, something that went on every table, every meal, no matter what we were having to eat, was what they called a relish tray. And the relish tray was very simply, let me clean this up. Carrot sticks, celery sticks, olives, little pimento olives, and pickles on every table. And that's something I just don't see here in California very often. People just don't do that. But that was something you just ate along with a meal. Everybody, oh my goodness. We have them on like special times, like maybe for Thanksgiving I'll put a relish tray. I think my kids think it's kind of silly. But to me, it's just very nostalgic. Okay, so anyway, I put a garlic clove in every one, and then I'm going to put, I have dill seed, and this dill seed is empty, so should have done this beforehand. Because I've got this plastic on it. I'm going to do this. And that answers our question. How many dill seeds are in one of these little tins? Less than in one of these jars. Less. Kind of looks like it's more, but it's less. All right. Okay, so dill seed. I need 1 tablespoon of dill seed per jar. Now, I've made these pickles using fresh dill weed, the plant, and it's beautiful. They taste fine. And so in that case, I don't put any dill seed. I would just put the dill weed. And again, they lasted for a long, long time. In the refrigerator, you don't have to worry about the dill weed going bad or anything. It stayed really nice. But if you wanted to, you could pull it out. I don't think I ever pulled it out. Okay. So there's my dill seed. Okay. Then I have celery seed, and I just need 1/8 of a teaspoon, it says. I go a little heavier, probably. Maybe about 1/4 of a teaspoon. If I can get this off of here. There we go. So I have a half a teaspoon measure, which I like to use because it fits in the jar. So I'm going to use about a half of it. A little less than half per jar. Celery seed reminds me of my mother, who always puts celery seed in the potato salad. I don't know why I don't do that. I should do that. Okay. So we have dill seed, celery seed, mustard seed. I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon per jar of mustard seed. And I'm using yellow mustard seed. I imagine you can use any color. But I use this. I save the brown because I use brown mostly for making mustard, which we'll have to do someday. Okay, so there's the mustard seed. And then I have crushed red pepper flakes. And I believe these are my crushed red pepper flakes. Are these from our garden, these crushed red pepper flakes?
Yes.
Okay, I'm asking because they're in this jar because that's convenience. But our crushed red pepper flakes are a combination of red peppers, so they're not maybe quite as hot as some of the jarred that you buy. So I'm going to go a little heavy on mine. And it's asking for 1/2 teaspoon per jar. So I'm going to make sure I get a full 1/2 teaspoon per jar. Maybe kind of a rounded one. Per jar. Now this recipe, if you have a jar that these are pint jars. If you have quart jars, double the recipe. If you use a 1/2 pint, the little jelly jars, reduce the recipe again. It's just an approximation, and you might find that after you make it, that you think it's too spicy or not spicy enough or whatever. You do whatever you like. I'm emptying my bay leaves because I want to use small bay leaves for this. So I just need small size, and I need 1 per jar. And if I don't have a whole one, I can use a 1/2 one. But that's good. All right. Put these back. So I have everything in my jar that I'm going to need other than the cucumbers and the brine. So let me just move this away so you can see better what I'm going to do. Now, there are no rules about how you're going to cut your cucumbers, except for one. Well, 2. There's 2 rules. The first rule is you're going to cut off the blossom end for sure. And you're going to cut off, here, this one's easier to see. The blossom here, you can even see the dried up blossom still stuck on the end of the cucumber. Okay, that's the part that's how the cucumber was growing from. And then, but I cut off both ends. And it's really important because if you do not cut off the end, your cucumbers will not stay crisp for some reason. It's a cucumber thing. I don't know. The cucumber people know why, but I don't know why, and I don't care what. I just know that if you cut them off, it's going to work. So I'm going to start by cutting off both ends. And this is where my dogs usually go nuts because this is the part that my dogs love to eat. But I'm just going to put these aside for right now because they're being really good. And then I'm going to look and make sure I don't have any bad spots on my cucumber. Any spots that are overly ripe or any little holes or brown things. And this looks kind of beautiful, actually. So I'm going to decide how I'm going to cut it. And I usually judge by my jar. Okay, and it's much too, you can see, it's much too long for the jar. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half. Just because I don't want a real long half and then little pieces. Of course I could get nice long spears and then some little chunks. But for me, I'm all about what's easiest, and I'm just going to cut that in half. Approximately half, okay? So I have 2 pieces. And then I'm going to cut, when I cut spears, I cut down straight down the middle. And then I cut this part in 3. So I kind of angle a cut from that side, and then I cut it this way. So I have 1, 2, 3 spears. And then I'm just going to try to stand them up, or in my case, I'm going to try to lay them down. Do you see that trick? If I stand them up, they're going to flop around, go all nutsy. But if I lay them down, I can kind of stack them. So I'm just going to cut this in approximately equal pieces. I'm not going to be judged on this. Nobody's coming. And I like to have some skins turned out and some skins turned in because that's very pretty. And when you do your own canning, you love to take pictures of what you canned, especially if you grew what's in the can, but it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be. And take pictures of it and share it, and people go, oh my gosh, I can't believe what you did. That's beautiful. Oh, it's so beautiful. So you want to look as nice as you can. So I turn some of the skins out and some of the skins in. But I want to get pretty much as I can get in the jar. I don't want a lot of space. So I kind of push it in because they kind of shrivel up a little bit as they're there. So you see that's pretty much, I got 1 cucumber in a jar. 1 cucumber in that jar. And it'll loosen up a little bit when I add the brine. So let's just put that aside. And let's get another one. Now this one, I can see there's a little bruise on the end, so I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to cut that off. A little soft there, like it might have fallen or something like that. And then again, it's still too long for the jar, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. And I'm going to cut this in half this way. And then I'm going to make spears. And again, I'm going to lay them down in my jar. Did you ever see anything so clever as that? And again, I'm kind of laying some out and some in. Now, some of you might be saying, Rebecca, all of your stuff is at the bottom. It's not on the pickle. Well, when I pour that brine in there, I'm going to be able to shake this. I'm going to be able to shake it, and we're going to be able to disperse it. And these pickles are going to be in my refrigerator for a long time. So it's going to settle to the bottom anyway. But all this, the goodness, all those little spices that are there making magic of the flavors of my cucumber are, they're flavoring the brine. They're going to flavor the brine. The garlic doesn't matter where it's going to be in that jar, where it's going to live. It's going to flavor everybody, you know. A garlic clove can walk into a room and not affect everybody in it. And same for the other things. So, now, this is what I wanted to tell you about the neck of a jar. I don't have another jar to show you. But this is what I mean. You see how the pickles are, the slices are going clear to the edge of the jar. If there was a neck where this hole was smaller, there'd be a little place in there that the pickle could get behind. But you see, when you go to pick it out of there, you can use your finger and get out of there. Take the ones from the middle first. No big deal. It's no big deal. I'm going to just cut a couple cucumbers. And I want to fill these 4 jars. I don't have to fill them all in front of you, but I could maybe show you a different way to cut them. But I think you can figure that out. If you want slices or if you want chunks. There's kind of something kind of fun about having pickle chunks. I don't know what that is, but I really enjoy the pickle chunks. And I think my husband secretly likes the pickle chunks. He doesn't ever say, oh, Rebecca, I love these pickle chunks. But I kind of think he does. I think he likes that. I'll tell you something else. And since we started making our own pickles, my husband eats tuna pickle. That's something I used to just give the children. I used to make them a special treat when they were children. We had nothing in the house, and nobody wanted to go for groceries or couldn't go for groceries. But cans of tuna and pickles and stale freezer burn hot dog buns in the freezer. I used to make them tuna pickle and a hot dog bun, and they acted like it was a gourmet treat. But my husband did not eat that. That was for the kids. And not that he wouldn't have, but I don't think I ever asked him to. But anyway, he wasn't a big tuna person. He wasn't a big pickle person. But now he's like a tuna pickle person. It's magic. Pickles, making pickles are magic. He likes pickles. I think it's because we make them. I think so. I'm not sure. Because if you wanted something else, there's a store right across the street. Okay, I'm just doing this last one quickly. I don't want to make a big, long, look at me making a short video into a big, long, stupid video. I don't want to do that. But, oh, these are good. Oh, they're so good. These would make a cute gift, but of course they're in the refrigerator. But pickles are a nice gift. Oh, I saw something that went past me. Do not go past me. It's a black hole. So now I have a chunk. What do I do with a chunk? Should I throw that away? No. I'm going to stick it in there. It's just a chunk, a pickle chunk. You know, if you ever want a snack, you don't want to make a snack. Oh, I should have a snack. I'm so hungry I want a snack, but oh, I should be good and not have a snack. You know, a pickle, there's nothing wrong with eating a pickle. Okay, now let's see what happens when I put the brine on. I poured my brine back into the pitcher so I could better pour it into the jars. But I want to show you. I want to get it full up. You know, I want it to cover the pickles, but I want to let it sit a minute because there's some air pockets down inside, and I want to be able to jiggle that a little bit to make sure that the brine completely covers. You know, when it goes down inside, it's going to be. And you see my brine is going pretty fast, right? I'm going to have to make more brine. I'm just going to stick a chopstick down inside this jar and wiggle them around a little bit because I want to kind of push them back down in and to make sure that all the air bubbles are released because I want to make sure that I have all the brine in the jar that I can put in the jar. Okay? Now, over the course of a day, some of that brine might disappear. So if you have extra brine, don't throw it away yet. Keep it in case you want to top up your jars. In case they need topping off. And then you're just going to put a lid on your jar. And of course you're just going to shake it. You don't have to shake it. You don't have to be a crazy person. But you're mixing up, making sure the herbs are a little bit dispersed. And again, like I said, they're still flavoring the pickles. And if you see them floating up at the top, that's no big deal. It's not going to hurt anything. Anyway, I just want you to do this and then look at it. We'll look at it maybe tomorrow or later today and see if there's room for more brine at the top. And then when we're satisfied, these are going to go in the refrigerator for 1 week, for 7 days before you eat them. You could eat them in a day or two, but they're so much better if they sit for like 7 days. Then they're really done. And then they can stay in your refrigerator as long as you want. And you just go and grab a pickle when you want a pickle. Grab a can of tuna. Grab some mayonnaise. And you're good. You are good. You are golden. Okay. I'm just going to do these and I'm going to let you know. I'll come back and show you at the end how many jars I ended up with. But I'm going to have to make, look at that, some more brine. So I'll be back. I got 6 jars, 6 cucumbers, 6 jars. Can't beat that. One last thing to do before they go in the refrigerator. I'm just putting a little piece of blue tape on the top because we have to mark the date. Always mark your jars, any kind of a jar, what's in the jar and the date. I don't have to mark what's in the jar because I can easily see, even after years, by opening this jar, what's in it. But like a candy jar or something like that, you sometimes have to open, that you have to open. You sometimes don't know what it is for sure. Okay, so I'm just putting November 20 is all I'm putting on there because it could go into a year. These will not, but just in case something gets pushed to the back of the refrigerator, you're not gonna happen in my house. I'm like the refrigerator police. I've lost so much food over the years from the refrigerator from things being pushed back and forgotten and in the wrong place and can't see it. And my refrigerator is pretty big and tall and deep. And I have trouble seeing, like reaching some of the top shelves in it, especially in the back, so I have rules. I have refrigerator rules of where things go, where in what section of the refrigerator things go, and things like fruit has to be contained in a bowl. So I don't find some piece of who knows what in the back that I'm not sure what it was months from now when I go to clean it out. So I'm really good about it, but I have to say I haven't always been that good about it. So I always put the year and the date. Now the other one says August 3rd, so I knew I was going to eat those. It was just a couple jars. I had like 3 jars, but I have to use those 3 first. The last 2 I have left, 1.5 jars. And then we can start working our way through these. That's all. This for a lot of you doesn't mean anything, but for those of you who might want to make pickles or do something like this, preserve some food, just let me know if you do it. It's so much fun. It's so satisfactory to have food that you made with your hands. And I can say I'm losing my light, so I'm cutting this short before I get some crazy people going, "Where's your light? Where's your light?" I can't see you. Okay. Down when daylight savings time ends. It's the saddest thing. Okay. Hope to see you again soon. I wish you blessings.